Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu, mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services. Discover how to do mortgage note investing in today's session with Nathan Turner. He is known across the US as the Canadian Note Guy. And having run several businesses, including fix and flip real estate, he discovered mortgage notes and the opportunity that they provide in the US in 2009. So he has since become a leader in the industry, in the private investment sector. He is the president of Earnest Incorporated, the manager of the US-based Earnest Investing LP note fund, where he actively manages assets for accredited passive investors with a focus on purchasing performing and non-performing first lien mortgages in the US. He's also the owner and host of the Diversified Mortgage Expo, a leading annual note conference. This conference has a history of being a no-pitching educational event where those who want to learn, network, and grow come together. So, first question is, what is the secret to your success?
I was thinking about that as I was preparing for this. And I think part of the secret is public speaking, being prepared and then going out and then telling people about what you do and doing it, if possible, on a large stage. That's it. It sounds really simple, but really that's it.
I'm so glad you said that. Very good. So tell us about mortgage note investing and how it works for US-based entrepreneurs.
So the funny part of it all is, I live in Canada. So that's how I'm the Canadian note guy, is because I live in Canada. That being said, all of my business, everything I do is in the US. So it's a beautiful business. It's a wonderful business where I can do it from somewhere else. I can work remotely. I work from my home office up in Canada, and everything I do is in the US. So mortgage note investing, we need to break it down just a little bit, because what that means is, instead of buying properties that I then rent out to tenants, people living in the property that pay me rent, instead I'm buying the mortgage that's attached to that property. So you think of, you're going to buy a house and you identify a property that you want to buy and you want to live in. You go to the bank and you say, okay, Mr. Banker, I would like to buy that house. Can you give me money so that I can go and buy that house? The bank does that and they create a mortgage. The mortgage lays out the terms and conditions. So this is how much you owe per month at this interest rate for this period of time. If you don't pay, the house is the collateral. It's what will come after if you don't make any payments. The bank then has the opportunity to then sell that contract to anybody they want. So I buy from banks, I buy from private individuals, anybody who has created a mortgage attached to a property, I'm buying the mortgage. The property just happens to be my collateral. So if something goes wrong, it's backed by the real estate, but all I'm actually buying is a file folder full of papers.
Great. So how can entrepreneurs leverage this way of investing?
So I think one of the great advantages to what I do is I've been a landlord. And so I've owned the property. I had a renter. I had somebody making the payments. What I discovered in doing that is I liked that monthly payment. What I didn't like was anything else. Anything else that goes with being a landlord, it's a lot of work, and it just seemed like it was more trouble than it was worth, honestly. What I love about what I do now is, instead of having renters in the property, I have homeowners. So that means that they take care of the broken toilet. They take care of the new roof that needs to be done. I get all that cash flow that I normally get with having a rental, but I don't have any of the headaches that go along with it. So it's a beautiful strategy backed by real estate, and it just works really well.
Thank you. And how can entrepreneurs actually get into doing this? Do they need to come to you, or how does it actually work?
Well, there's a few ways you can do it. If you are looking at doing this yourself, where you want to buy and actively manage the loans, the mortgages that you're purchasing, you can certainly do that. I've done that, and a lot of people have done that. You need some education. I don't sell education. I don't teach people how to do this. I have colleagues that do that, and I'm happy to make some introductions. But be aware that there are rules and there are things you have to know before you get involved. So that's the one side. If you want to be an active investor, great. You can go ahead and do that, and it's a fantastic investment, but there's work. If you want just the easy button, the way that you can just be involved without actually doing anything, you can invest with somebody like me, or again, one of my colleagues. We have an investment fund. So you can just put your money in. That's what I'm going to go do with it, is buy and manage these mortgage notes. And then you as the investor just get a very predictable, reliable return on your investment.
Thank you. What is the likely return on the investment to be? What is
Sure. So we pay out an 8% annual return. And according to the lawyers, I can't use the word guarantee. What I can tell you is we pay 8%.
Okay, I understand.
So not an expected, not a maybe. We pay 8%.
Okay, so the biggest benefit is that you just put the money in and then you manage everything and you just pay them out the return. They don't have to do anything.
Exactly. So it's the easy button on doing something that A, it's really cool, and B, we're actually really helping people. A lot of the time we get some of these, especially on the seller financed mortgages out there, you'll have somebody that is running into some kind of trouble. Maybe they lost their job, maybe they're divorced, whatever it is, there's some issue in their life that comes up. And that can be really difficult to get them back on track when you're dealing with a bank. I'm not a bank. So when they come to me and say, hey, I'm having a hard time making my payments, this happened and now I can't make payments. As a human being, as a person, I can go back to them and say, listen, I understand, I get where you're coming from, so let's figure out a solution. And I'm far more flexible than a bank. So I have a lot of latitude to figure out what we can actually do instead of holding you accountable something that just isn't possible for you anymore.
Thank you. So what happens when the owner cannot actually pay? What typically happens?
So typically what happens is they'll miss a payment, and then me or somebody from my team will call out and say, okay, you missed a payment. What are we going to do about that? Can you tell me why, or can you tell me what's happening? And we'll get all kinds of stories. And it can be anything from, like I say, lost a job or some life event happened, something happened. Sometimes it's just whatever, they got forgot or something like that. But more often than not, it's some life event happened. In that situation, we say, okay, so what do you see changing? How can we approach this in a way that we can help you get back on track? In almost every single case, there's very few times that I actually want that property. I would much rather just have those monthly payments coming in where I don't have to actually deal with the liability of owning a house. And what happens if something breaks or something needs repairs or something like that? I don't actually want that. I just want that monthly payment. So it's really to my advantage to get that person back on track and making payments. So then we start looking at, okay, so what adjustments can we make to maybe your interest rate or your monthly payment or the number of payments left in the loan? And we can negotiate and we can go back and forth until we find something that works for both of us. And that works the vast majority of the time.
Thank you. Is there a set amount they have to invest in, or they have to, is there a set amount they have to invest in with you?
For investors coming in with me, the minimum is 50,000 US and up to a maximum of $1 million.
Okay. And what are the biggest benefits apart from you managing everything?
I think really it comes down to just you're getting your time back. You've got extra money that's not doing anything for you. In the US, you can use your IRA, your retirement account. Outside of the US, whatever money you've got that is just sitting and not doing as well as 8%. And then you can get your time back. If you're trying to go around and try to figure out what you can do, or you've got this money sitting that's not doing anything, let me put it to work for you.
Thank you. What are the biggest risks to investing in this way?
The risks are really small, honestly. So as part of the investment fund, we have a pool of these mortgage notes. We're not fully funded yet, but as we continue to grow, we're going to have, over 100 notes, 100 of these mortgage loans in our portfolio. So if one goes bad, it's really not a big deal. If 10 go bad, it's really not a big deal. We've got 90 others that are still making payments. If those go bad, if they stop making payment for some reason, That's where I come in. And from my experience, I go in and take care of whatever needs taken care of, getting them back on track, doing a foreclosure if we have to. But whatever needs managing, that's my responsibility.
Thank you. And what's your secret to becoming an awakened titan, and how did that help you to start this business?
Well, like I say before, I think it's public speaking. I got involved in this business in 2009, and it was in 2015 where I felt like I had enough experience and enough credibility to be able to get up on stage. So I started going, I had already been attending several different conferences all about this business, mortgage note investing. And it was in 2015 that I thought, I think I could do that. I think I could get up there on stage. And it was really scary, and it was very nerve-wracking, and I wasn't exactly sure, how that would be received, or if people would like me or anything like that. It was totally worth it. I got to speak on my first stage, and then I got onto another. And what I found was, more often than not, I would just do a presentation about due diligence, about how I would evaluate a deal. And after I finished speaking, somebody would come up to me and say, "Hey, that sounds really great. Do you need money? Are you looking for investors for this?" Actually, I am. And that was how that was able to take off. And so that's continued down to the point where now I have my own conference, where now I'm the host of the conference. So yes, I get to speak, and I own it. For as much publicity and as much credibility I got as a speaker on stage, now I own the whole conference. And so that just helps increase that exponentially.
So you are
a big believer in public speaking.
Very good. So how can entrepreneurs leverage by participating in this Diversified Mortgage Expo that you lead?
So you'll hear this a lot. Once you start getting into the business, you'll start hearing, and you've probably heard this no matter what business you're in, it's all about relationships. That's especially true in mortgage note investing, where it's a small enough group of people that it really matters who you know and who knows you, and your reputation and things like that. And so it makes it a really important thing to get together with as many people as you can and get to know as many people as you can as quickly as you can. So that was the purpose of the conference for me, was a place where people can come together, network, start doing deals together, and start building that, know, like, and trust that is needed to start doing business.
Thank you. Is there a reason why it's a no pitch kind of conference?
Partially, it's just personal preference. So when I started going to conferences, I started, there were different ones. There were some that was educational, and there were the other ones that were a sales pitch. And the sales pitch ones, for me, it was just a major turnoff. It was a great presentation, and then the last half of it was just this huge sale pitch and run to the back of the room. And not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but for me, it was a turnoff. So I decided when we took this one over that what I wanted to do was just education. Just come. You don't have to have your guard up waiting for somebody to give you that sales pitch. We're just there to educate, just to share ideas, our experience.
Thank you. Is there anything entrepreneurs can do in order to reduce the risk of maybe not getting that return that you're estimating that every property will get, every mortgage note will get?
Several things, actually. Yeah, there's as you start getting into the business, one of the things that was clear to me right away was, and I came from a real estate background, that one thing that was clear was this is not real estate, this is finance. And it took me a little while to kind of get my head around that and understand how different it is. And so, yeah, as you get into it, I mean, some of the same things are true where, like in real estate, you say you make your money when you buy. Same thing is true for a mortgage note. But it's understanding what you're looking for up front versus looking at a property and the different kinds of things that are important to you. I'll give you one example. So occasionally I'll have somebody that has a mortgage note for sale, and they'll come to me and they'll present to me really the property, and they'll talk to me about how they took this property, they bought this property, they renovated it, and they'll tell me about specific renovations. They'll tell me about, the granite countertops and the archway that they built here and things like that. And honestly and truly, I don't care. Like that's really nice, and I'm really proud of you for doing all this work. But for me, it doesn't actually make a difference. It really doesn't. What I care about is how much the unpaid balance is. I want to know what the interest rate is. I want to know when's the last time the person made a payment. Those are the things that I care about. The house value as a whole, I care about, but not the specific renovations. So understanding the difference between those things is important.
Thank you. And how do you source these mortgage notes?
It is all about relationships. So it's really, again, going to these conferences and talking to different people. It's not something that you're going to find widely online. I'll give a shout out to some good friends of mine. They started an online platform. It's one of the only ones out there, but it's called Paperstack. So if you go to Paperstack with no K on the end of it, paperstack.com, and that's a place where you can go and find mortgage notes for sale. And just anybody who owns a note, they can put it on that website for sale. I've used them before, and like I said, they're great guys, really dialed in. They've got it all figured out. But other than that, there's not a lot of places where you can just like find it online. You really have to know people. And so it's all about those relationships.
Thank you. And why do people sell mortgage notes?
In very short explanation is because they would rather have a lump sum of cash today versus payments over time. So for example, let's say we've got somebody who owns a house, they've sold it on terms, they've been collecting these payments for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever. And then same thing, a life change. Maybe they have a business investment that they would like to invest in. Maybe they have, renovations to the house they want to do. Maybe they've got a kid going to college, whatever it might be, some expense, some opportunity that they want to take part in. And it's an opportunity for them to get that lump sum from that note that they've been holding rather than just those monthly payments.
Thank you. Is there any question you would like to be asked that you believe entrepreneurs would like to hear?
Oh, question to be asked. Just in general. So my background is I have a degree in business management. I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. That was not my intent. I actually wanted to be a teacher. And that was just kind of a way for me to get that. That didn't end up happening. But I'm very interested in business in general. So I've had a Curves franchise in the past. I did fix and flip real estate. I've done numerous different things. So I like just getting into the details of business. For those who are in business, I guess the question is, how do I get started? How do I know if it's a good business? It is something that and then we can get into it and we can start talking about, okay, what are you looking at specifically? And tell me some of the numbers and what's the opportunity, and we can start diving in. I love getting into that.
Okay. How does this compare to other opportunities for investing in the market?
I think it's one of the better ones out there because it's lots of reasons. I just think it's a really cool business. I love the fact that I can control a property without owning it. So I've got that real estate as that backup plan if I ever need it. And we absolutely do. If somebody stops making payments, the most common problem that we come across when people stop making payments is they died. They passed away. And so in that situation, obviously there's no one there to make payments anymore. So in that case, now we've got a non-performing note where nobody's making payments. Our remedy on that is to foreclose on the property. So we go through the whole court process that transfers ownership of the house over to me. And then now I can sell that house and profit from it that way. But I love that we've got that real estate there in the background for the just in case. I also love that the people that are making payments, they have a payment history. So typically, people tend to behave the same way over time. So if they have been making regular payments, they will likely continue to make regular payments. So that's just a good indication. So all of those kinds of things are wrapped up in why I like notes. Why it's such a good investment is it's already established terms. So a note is something that's already there. They've already been making payments. There's already an agreement in place versus something where it's an estimated return at some point in the future, potentially unknown. Where, for example, I used to do fix and flip. That was great and I loved it, but I never knew exactly how much I was going to make. What if there are extra repairs that I didn't plan on? What if something happens in the market? What if, it takes me longer to sell than I anticipated? All those kind of unknowns are taken out. And so I love the predictability, and I love the safety that's built in.
Thank you. Is this available just for US-based accredited investors, or is it available as well for worldwide global investors?
Yeah, worldwide. If you're coming from outside the US, there's one extra document that you'll have to sign, and it just says you live outside the US. That's pretty much it. But yeah, it's open to anybody worldwide.
Thank you. And do you have any case studies that you can share with us about some of the most successful deals that you've done, or any other case studies that you can share?
Yeah, certainly. So I'll share one that's one of my favorites, just because to me, it's the epitome of what we're doing. So a situation where I bought a loan that was making payments in North Carolina, I think. Anyway, somewhere in the eastern United States. And as this gentleman was there, I looked at his loan documents, and he was making payments on a 9% interest rate. So it was a really high interest rate. And this was a few years ago. Rates at the bank were somewhere around 4%. So I looked at that and I said, okay, you're paying me 9%. The bank is offering 4%. We'd already had a conversation. I knew his credit score was in good shape. So I said, why don't you go to the bank, get financing from them, they'll pay me off, and then you can have a much lower rate. And the benefit to me in that case is the sooner I get paid, the more money I make. So it's very, self-interested. At the same time, he's going to save a bunch of money. So he went and did that. He went to the bank, talked to them. They were ready to do the refinance, except he needed a new furnace installed into his house. And the issue was the furnace cost something like $13,000, or 10, 11, 12, 13,000, somewhere in there, over 10,000. And of course, he didn't have the money. So I that story, and I said, okay, so you're telling me if we can put a new furnace in the house, you can get refinanced at a lower rate and I can get paid off early. Yes, that's the case. Okay. So after talking to the bank and making sure that was actually the case, I went ahead and forwarded him the cash to be able to buy the furnace. And then we just included that in his payoff. So sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The bank now has a new customer. The borrower's at a lower rate and I got paid off early. That was a win-win-win all around.
Wow, that sounds amazing. What's your message to entrepreneurs worldwide who want to do this kind of passive mortgage note investing?
I think the message is figure out what your goal is, and then go for it. Everyone starts somewhere. If you don't have to know everything to get started in something, you do need to know something. So get some education if you're looking to do it yourself. If you want to do it passively, there's very little you need to get going. You just need to come and talk to me. But in general, my message to people in whatever they're doing, entrepreneurial, do it. Go out there and do it. Figure out what you want to do and then go and do it. I'm a big believer in just taking action.
That's a fascinating episode. Thank you so much, Nathan. And
My pleasure.
I'll see you in the next episode. Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.